Hoy os traigo un vídeo un poco diferente, subtitulado al castellano, pero realizado en inglés. Una primera entrevista para el canal de Ray Fuentes. Ray Fuentes, para el que no lo conozca, es un creador de contenido en habla inglesa que, además de saber muchísimo sobre XRP, está especializado en activos de utilidad, no solamente XRP, sino en cualquier cosa que tenga un propósito en el mundo real. Nada que ver con la especulación que tan extendida está, por desgracia, entre los creadores de contenido en habla hispana. Así que sin más, os dejo aquí la entrevista, espero que la disfrutéis y nos vemos al otro lado. So, hello everybody, it's Fran here and today I have the pleasure to make the first interview in English for my channel, bringing as a guest this famous content creator you probably already know, Ray Fuentes. How are you, Ray?
I'm doing very well, Fran. I don't know if I'm famous or nearly as famous as you are, sir. So thank you for having me on your channel. How you doing?
Well, in the Spanish community, we consume a lot of English content, so you are pretty known in the Spanish community. So I can tell it, and I'm speaking for part of the Spanish community, so I'm pretty sure that you're well known. So yeah, basically, Ray and we met at Ripple Swell. We knew each other a little bit before, but I thought it would be a good idea to bring him to the channel because apart from knowing everybody in the community, I think you have a very realistic, down-to-earth approach to the whole ecosystem, not only, and I think it's a pretty unique perspective. You have a really great pulse of the market. And why don't you make a quick intro, so for in case anybody who doesn't know you, who is Ray? How did you end up in the digital asset space? When did you realize digital assets were the future? Like that kind of aha moment, like a little brief.
Is this supposed to be an interview, Fran? I thought we are practicing Spanish. Hey, thanks for having me on, sir. Again, my name is Ray Fuentes, for those in the audience who may not know who I am. I am 37 years old. I'm happily married. I've got a beautiful wife and daughter. They're over at the in-laws house right now. Yesterday was Thanksgiving holiday, so we're about to jam out to the desert to just get away for the weekend and unwind. But don't worry, because I'll still be online in some capacity, sharing content, thought leadership, or just connecting people within the community. I've been in this space for about 5 to 6 years now. 5 years working, I'd say 6 to 7 years as investing. So just I would say as a hobby. But once I started seeing that things were becoming very fast paced, that especially right before the Ripple or XRP lawsuit, when the SEC, who was it, Jay Clayton, had filed or dropped the lawsuit against Ripple on his last day, that was the moment where things are becoming very real. And so, but before that, I was in insurance for 10 years, Fran. So right out of college, as a 23, 24-year-old, I got into commercial insurance, selling workers' comp and liability to business owners all throughout Southern California, the West Coast of the United States. Around the time of COVID, things became very, I would say, just uncertain, very questionable as well, because the information that I was receiving from, let's just say, the CDC, a trusted entity, that I need to share this information to my clients, I didn't feel comfortable with some of that information, and it made me start doing additional research. What's going on from a macro level with some of these, from the decision making revolved around, call it COVID. And so because of that, I started seeing new payment rails and new ways of transmitting value. And for me, during college, even to back up a little bit more before that, I started a business in college where I had to make backpacks in China. And so I actually had experience wiring funds to a manufacturer in China as a 22-year-old. And so now when COVID came around 10 years later, I'm like, man, the world's shut down, but we still need to make money and figure things out. So that's where I was like, okay, let's dive into digital assets. There's new ways of transmitting money around circumventing the SWIFT network. And so for me, that really hit home to me, because as mentioned briefly, I started a company earlier on where I experienced so much friction sending my money from bank to bank. And so now when we can send text messages around the world as within seconds, so shouldn't we be able to do that with our money and value? So when COVID and all that moment in time came about, I made the decision to liquidate my 401k. I put it all into digital assets, specifically XRP. This was right around the lawsuit, just to bring it a little bit forward. And then that's when there was so much blood in the street. And I rode a significant wave and thought I was the smartest man in the world. Like, oh man, it's going to keep going up and to the right. But how do we say arriba y a la derecha?
Exactly.
And but ultimately things came back down a little bit. And so I made a decision, like there's got to be also more than just buying and holding these digital assets. Who's building on these payment rails? Where are they integrating? What's the next? What's next? And so I was using Uphold, Uphold, the Uphold wallet, which I'm sure your customer base is or your audience is familiar about Uphold.com. And they stayed true to the XRP community at that time. That was one of the only shops or exchanges where you can buy, sell, trade XRP. And so for me, it was who's working with Uphold. Go into their application, go to the integrations button, and see who's building these guys. And so then I came across a company called Link2. I also heard about Link2 from some other influencers in the space: Digital Asset Investor, Digital Perspectives, Brad Kimes, Bearable Bull, and many others, Coach JV. And so because of that, I just said, well, I'm familiar with this company, Link2, but they at the time you can only invest on their platform as an accredited investor. And so at that same time during COVID, I met my wife, and we then satisfied the household income to satisfy the accredited investor rules. And then I became investing on Link2's platform using XRP, the digital asset that was quote unquote a security, to invest in private securities on their platform. So it was just a really interesting moment where I was really, in my heart of hearts, using XRP to its fullest utility. And so in a nutshell, I ended up becoming an employee on Link2's platform, or for Link2. And then fast forward to today, I work with companies similar to Link2, or at least disruptive companies that are moving the barriers. So I'd like to say I'm passionate about fintech companies that are moving the barriers, opening access to markets that were at some time. And so that's where I'm at. I really love XRP. I host XRP meetups around the world. And it was great seeing you in New York. We had some really interesting thought leaders come and speak. We had Jake Claver from Beyond Broke, Digital Ascension Group, Digital Wealth Partners. I mean, the guys on the helm of many companies. We had Hugo Filion, the CEO of Flare. We had Vivo Power's chairman, Adam Trademan. We had the CEO of W3 SaaS, that's Boone Bergsma, Zoe Braderman from Web3 Enabler. We had so many people speaking, and it was just a really cool time. So again, I've just been really fortunate to make once a hobby become a full-time passion and employment, and I'm just thankful to be here on the call with you. So thanks, Fran, for letting me just share who I am and what my passions are.
Nice. It's interesting how COVID was a wake-up call for many people. Like, I think the journey in the digital asset space started with COVID. So I think we have to be grateful for the event, so to speak, even though maybe we're not very happy with what happened, me personally, because all the things were happening. Let's not dive on that topic here, because maybe we'll get our YouTube censored. I've got many TikTok censored videos taken out because of things I was explaining with this and all the history behind it. Like crazy, it's crazy stuff.
Yeah, I didn't even say the word when I was starting to make videos at that time. So I'm sure there's AI deployed to scan the copy, the audio, the visuals.
Yes,
it's incredible what's being tracked these days.
Exactly.
That's kind of where we're moving into an environment where, you know, the everything is tracked, the money that we're sending, the text messages. But at the end of the day, what do you have to hide if you're just being a good person? So that's kind of like where I default mentally. So
exactly.
Anyways.
Good point. So you touched there on a couple of few things that I want to deep dive a little bit. So the next kind of question would be, well, we were in many events. One of the events was organized by you. We'll dive that in a little bit deeper now in that event. But before doing that, what is your kind of take on Ripple Swell? What piece of information did you learn about that you didn't know before going? Something that surprised you? Something? What's your like sensation?
You know what, Fran, I don't want to say that there weren't any surprises because I felt like I did so much research and preparation in advance of that conference that I wanted to be prepared for almost everything and anything that was to be said. So going to that conference, I had slides, graphics, notes prepared for all the speakers, all the panelists for not just my event, but for obviously Ripple Swell. And so this way it was I was prepared. So when there was breaking news or information, I was ready to go with assets and things that would make my brand stand out and be, just showcase what I've been working on and why and all the preparation in advance of that conference. So, but for me, what underscored just the conference itself was just all the participants that were there, from the heads of Fidelity, BlackRock, Mouse Frankleton, or Franklin Templeton, excuse me. Who else? Sorry, I got all these nerves because there's just so much energy and just
Yes.
Compartmentalized in just a few hours or a few days. There was 900 people in that room, and me, and I'm sure like you want to meet everybody there, but you can't. And so it's just like there's like, what is it, Reese Bennett or Mr. Reese from Ripple. He's been very active on socials right now, but I haven't been able to. I did brushed elbows with him while we were loading up our plates to get food. But where I'm getting at, there was just so many people there. Brad Garlinghouse, it was great to just brush elbows with him. David Schwartz. For me, just to be able to be in the room with the people from, Securitize, Carlos Dominguez, I didn't get to talk to him though, which was a bummer because I'm a huge fan of what he and his team at Securitize have been up to, from the tokenization of call it government assets and the amount that they've been able to do. And so I just think that they're on the cusp and driving specific technologies and call it narratives as well now. So it was just great to be, or even with Steve McClurg, the CEO of Canary Capital. So I finally got to just shake his hand, take a selfie with him, and the one of the heads at Citi. Her name's Desiree Marino. So it's just great to be in the room with so many TradFi people, DeFi KOLs, and just put faces to names. So for me, that's where there's real value is actually just seeing the human capital behind these companies, because without the people, the movers and shakers, then it's just be the tech. So no, I'm not disrespecting the developers at all, because they're building beautiful tech from a UI UX perspective, and it's a beautiful synergistic world that, a good balance of the sales and the tech side. So, but coming from that world, it's a very dynamic balance. The ego is involved. There is intelligence, and you just gotta play the politics, and it is what it is. But anyways, so it was just great to be in the room with all those builders and the individuals that are really making the moves. So including yourself again. So Fran, thanks for having me on the channel.
No, that's a great point actually. It's quite kind of weird to see so many familiar faces physically on a same event like Ripple Swell, after watching so much content that is online about them talking about how they're going to tokenize basically the world, how they're going to improve finance, and then being there physically and being able to meet them and talk with them is a much different experience than just getting to know them through the screen, right? So
I think for me, the discussions that made the most impact was one, hearing from Adina Friedman, the CEO of NASDAQ, talk about how they're just more than obviously an exchange. They're a tech integrator now, supporting many companies worldwide, financial institutions. So it was great to just, hear that from the horse's mouth, and to see her on stage with the president of Ripple, Monica Long, was a really great discussion. But then also Chris Larson, man, the dude's to finally see him in the flesh was a really great moment for me. So I had to take a selfie with him. But so he was on stage with Chef Jose Andres, and that was just, again, the discussions from a production perspective were out of this world. They're off the charts. I had a really great time. I was sitting front row for nearly every discussion, unless I, had to go eat some really great foods, because I mean, there was just it was a world-class production from every perspective. And so I'm looking forward to next year. For me, hearing Brad Garlinghouse, Ripple CEO, say that Ripple Swell is going to be more than what it is this year was great to hear. So I'm curious to see if they're opening the doors to a broader demographic. Ripple Swell, which is usually only catered to their institutional market participants, if they're going to open it up and also include the developers from Apex and maybe even go beyond and allow more retail passionate investors to be participants and attend, I wonder what Ripple's going to look like at that time. As an entity, are they public? What does the market look at that time as well? How many IPOs have we seen? Is Kraken public by then? We just saw Circle go IPO. USDC and RLUSD from a stablecoin perspective are just growing astronomically as well. RLUSD was launched December of 2024. Fast forward to today, excuse me, so less than 12 months, they've already grown by 1,300%. From basically zero to over $1 billion in reserves. So it's really interesting to see how fast even those reserves are growing from a perspective, because having attended Circle's a conference of Circles in 2023, they had already USDC was already transacted more than $12 trillion had been transacted using USDC. Their stable coin. So to hear those numbers, I mean, those are big league numbers, and those are institutional numbers. And so it's just great to see that there's institutional adoption happening with these cutting edge software distributed ledger solutions. And so I'm just waiting to see more growth, as we've been in this space now for 5 to 10 years for some of us, and it's time.
I think we're near to. I think 2026 is going to be a year of a huge explosion in adoption once specifically we get the Clarity Act through, and they have more clarity in the whole process. But yeah, I agree that you were in the first row of the event, because I was in the third one. I have always saw you in the first row, making sure that you were taking notes of everything that was happening, taking pictures.
Yeah, that was actually something I learned in college. I made sure I sat in the front row even in school. It took me until college to recognize that. Or absorb that quality, because there's less distractions, more engaged, and plus maybe those speakers remember your face.
Exactly, you never know. So in regards to the next event, one of the events because there were many events, we had the XRP community, we had Ripple Swell, and we also had your event. On the first day, you organized specifically a panel with the people you named before, Vivo Power, Flair, and Jake. What is your take on, because this is something that this audience is going to like a lot because of the yielding products and that are involved in process. Most of the people who watch this are XRP investors. My channel is created around the content of XRP and also the market, the utility market, anything that has the possibility of being adopted by the banking industry. So what is your take on that specific panel? What did you learn about it?
Yeah, it was just thinking back retrospectively. It was just I pinched myself thinking, who was sitting next to me from Hugo Filion, Adam Trademan, and of course, Jake Claver. You have guys at the helm of very different fronts from a TradFi perspective, DeFi perspective, digital asset treasury perspective. And but from the TradFi DeFi perspective, the conversation between Hugo Filion and Jay Claver was I would say very entertaining, because you had Hugo Filion talking about how ultimately he believes that DeFi is going to absorb all markets and everyone's going to be just utilizing DeFi tools and the rails, which I believe he's right. But without having that human element and interjection, because as Hugo said, that ultimately there's nobody servicing the tools that once they deploy them, their algorithms. And so because of that, I believe you're going to need that JP Morgan type of feel or touch, or that brokerage type of experience, some type of financial advisor involvement. And so I believe what Jake had mentioned on during the panel, that you're going to need the resources and platforms that his team are building as well. And so ultimately, I believe, like what Jake mentioned was, hey, they're happy to explore how they can bring in and institute the DeFi rails, which Flare's actually building and Hugo's team are building themselves. So I thought that was almost like a precursor, that their conversation of what's to come. And just like how Vivo Power's partner with Flare, there's great potential and synergies for the platforms which Jake is building to adopt or institute similar strategies and resources. So I think we're at the very cusp of the convergence between the DeFi and TradFi domains, and it's just great to see those two individuals, brilliant mind and just trusted individuals running those two movements. And so I was just grateful to have both of them participate. Jake hopped in at the last moment to speak on that panel. Ultimately, it was supposed to be Austin King, the founder of Nomina, who's also building some really great, who's built a great platform, Nomina. But ultimately, things settle as they should. We had Jake hop in and really put on a great discussion that I think benefited many in the audience, and so including myself. So I'm interested to see what becomes of is it going to be Digital Wealth Partners, which would then institute, or is it Digital Extension Group, which would institute the Flare resources or DeFi strategies? You know, that's something that we can always have another follow-up call or panel discussion featuring you as well, and those two gentlemen. I think that would be really a productive moment in production. But beyond that, though, I'm learning right alongside you. I'm just I thought also there was another panel featuring Flare's head of growth. That was Max Luck. He's also a brilliant mind who flew across the pond to speak. And, you know, he made some interesting comments as well, how to build these platforms that, you know, not only provide some disruptive technologies, but scale in a very seamless and easy to do manner. You know, I think people are overthinking about how to deploy some of these products, but it's really just how to make things just so simple and easy to use. And that's where Max had said some things that really struck a chord with me. But also one thing was, you know, how much longer they're going to be doing these Flare drops for. So I believe these Flare drops are only going to be lasting until February of 2026. So again, I think which is going to set things up to where it's going to be harder to obtain Flare. There's going to be, I would still say it's going to be harder. There's going to be more liquidity, more demand still. And so I think it's going to be, not financial advice, but I think it's going to encourage some growth and price appreciation within the Flare ecosystem. And so I'm curious to see what that drives, or what the market looks like around that narrative as well. So again, like you mentioned, 2026 is going to be a very productive and I'd say fruitful time. It's also a time long coming.
Exactly. No, it was a great panel. I mean, it's a discussion that is very timely. The discussion between Jake and Hugo, I think it's in the mouth of everybody. That kind of discussion, TradFi versus DeFi. So who's going to win? Yeah. And it's not who's going to win. It's going to be a collaboration.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like as we're seeing right now with the XRP ETFs, that's already underscores the convergence of the TradFi ecosystem and these new DeFi ecosystems. And so, again, like Nasdaq CEO Dina Friedman had mentioned, they're more of a tech company now that is supporting financial institutions worldwide and marketplaces. And so I just see, and so with that being said, many of these markets are already digital. It's just now you're onboarding and instituting the new payment rails that allow things to be more fluid and settled instantaneously, and so rather than T+2 or however much longer, and
Exactly.
so. And another thing that Adina Friedman, the Nasdaq CEO, had mentioned, which aligns with 2026, is she said that there was 70 fintech companies ready to go public. So are those the blockchain entities that are maybe have the picks and shovels, which have already been picked now, ready to be the fundamental layer or for the new, call it new era of finance? Maybe. And so I'm interested to see what happens. Is it the Krakens? Is it the Upholds? Is it these secondary marketplaces that have really been putting in the work through the bear markets and providing access to these everyday investors?
It's going to be an interesting year. You touched a little bit upon the ETFs. We'll talk about that in a few moments. But
Sure.
before that, what would you like to see more about in the ecosystem that you don't see enough? What would you like to see kind of an improvement, something that maybe
Sure.
is lacking?
Yeah, well, I actually, it's something that my team and I, or we, our network have been doing, is those XRP meetups, is just more community events and more IRL events. It's great having these X spaces. It's great having these virtual meetups, but I think the community is hungry for these IRLs. I've been hearing it for years, and so I mean, you see the excitement at the XRP Las Vegas conference. You see the excitement at the. I mean, I've been fortunate to go to all the conferences. So Apex, Ripple Swell, XRP Las Vegas, and then of course our meetups, and you just see the excitement, and so I think the people need. I think the community, the world needs more of that. And we were starved for many years because of the COVID moment, and I think because of that and many other things. I mean, we're creatures of habit. We're creatures of communication and engagement. And so I think we need that. And if we can do that and also create value at the same time and leverage some of these new disruptive rails at the same time, then I think it just creates an environment for great engagement, growth, excitement, and again, just a new world of finance and connecting with each other. So I really am excited about these new rails and software solutions and things of that nature, because like I've told others, coming from I played collegiate baseball for a moment, and I miss that camaraderie, being a part of something greater.
People really, one of the takeaways was also the community, right? I also attended the XRPL community the second day, and one of my personal takeaways, you just verbalized something I was thinking internally, is that we haven't organized, well, at least on my part, I haven't organized enough meetups. I organized the first meetup of the XRPL in Madrid a few years ago in Spain. Nobody had it done it until then. I'm talking about the year 2023. Yeah. So, and there was no event in Madrid or in Barcelona. I was the first one doing it. So there's a lot of people who would like to connect with like-minded investors because it's not only about investing, it's about creating community. So I totally agree with what you just said in regards to that.
100%. Well, if there's any opportunity to collaborate, I'm happy to fly across the pond and support you and really, I would say, round out that experience or that production and create a really iconic and rememberable moment for our community members. Because again, it's just one, I enjoy the travel. I enjoy this is a. What was it, like what Kobe said is the struggle or the journey is the struggle or is the journey itself or something along those lines. That is the moment, or and I'm butchering it, but ultimately I love being on this journey, man. It's great. Yeah, I'm living my dream, and the entrepreneurial journey is has been very good to me. So, but it's also scary living outside the box, taking risk and not knowing what tomorrow looks like. But that's there's beauty in that as well. And so leveraging these new rails like which you are, and it's inspiring. And so thank you for doing what you're doing. Fran, I know we were actually supposed to get together last week, but unfortunately I missed that. But even though we did that, I saw you were still online and you still were doing your live stream. And I'm like, man, that's it right there. And so kudos to you, because that takes a lot of cojones.
No, but you have a good point. I mean, the whole idea is just to enjoy more the process, right? Sometimes we're so obsessed with prices or whatever it is that we forget to enjoy the process more. And I think that's part of the journey to be more present in your day to day, to all the little tasks you have to do to overcome a little whatever. But the big point of that now we had time to see a little bit more the evolution of the ETFs, because if we had the call last week, it was pretty recent and we didn't have enough time to see all the rollout. So one of the questions I wanted to ask you is, what do you think? Well, what's your take on the ETF of XRP, and do you think it will have an impact on the price? What's your feeling in regards to that part?
Well, as you're speaking, I'm trying to look up what's the current growth for the Bitwise ETF, for the Canary ETF, because I mean they're growing by the billions now, and it seems by the week. And, there's more than 7 now ETFs. You've got two Creams double long XRP ETF, which I was very fortunate to interview their CEO at Ripple Swell, Sal Gilberti, who also came to my XRP meetup, and I believe you might have brushed elbows with him. Very nice man from New York City, soft-spoken. But anyways, back to your question. We're going to see astronomical growth. We're going to see the continued rollouts of more ETFs, because now Franklin Templeton had rolled theirs out or unveiled theirs last week, and I think we're going to just see more. And then we're going to see them for additional assets. But for me, are these ETFs or are these ETPs, exchange traded, specific products, rather than an overall fund of a blend of products. And so for me, that's where I think that. But through this process is financial literacy and us becoming more aware of just traditional, I'd say, financial tools and resources and communities of practice and things of that nature. But I think it's great for the ecosystem. It's great for XRP and XRP holders. And but for me, I just put out a video yesterday on the Thanksgiving holiday, but it dove into an analysis or a comparison of the pros and cons of XRP ETFs or buying XRP direct. Just buying XRP direct, you actually own the asset. You then take, you have full utility of the asset itself. You can work with the market participants within the ecosystem. But then, as a con, though, you have limitations of the financial institutions that are willing to integrate then with that asset or work with it. But on the pro side for the ETFs, you've got the TradFi rails and integrations and those market participants that are then working with the XRP, the ETF integration, a convergence from both sides, a top down, bottom up. I would just say meeting in the middle. So it's great for the ecosystem at whole. But we're not seeing any price action at the same time. So, yeah, which is good, because it just shows that not everything everything's so dependent on speculation. So I think we're still ripe for more utility and the adoption of this asset class or of these rails and solutions. And so I think we're still on the cusp of this speculative market moving into a utility-based market, but until that, we're going to see more I would call it uncertainty and turbulence until so. So I mean, have we even broken all-time highs for XRP yet? And so, but until then, it's just very interesting to see though why XRP has been so low, and meanwhile Bitcoin is ripping above six figures. Just it's crazy. But there is a marketing machine behind it. There's an ecosystem behind it. There is people behind it. So, and just like Ethereum, you know, you have consensus behind Ethereum. You have the consensus week. They have their conference. So maybe Ripple starts having their Ripple week in New York, and you see, and thankfully, and God willing, crossing my fingers and toes, which I'm doing right now, is, you know, maybe my brand and your brand through a vehicle like XRP Meetup or our own brands can participate and host a satellite event around Ripple Swell week. And so that's where I see the ecosystem and marketplace going, for at least for the XRP community. You know, so then what does that look like for consensus? Are they going to be public in 2026? You know, man, we can take this conversation on for another hour.
Yes.
Fran, there's just so much to talk about, because not only does, you know, crypto and these digital assets mean so much, but so do the picks and shovels of the companies that are building behind it. And so the Ripples, the consensus, the upholds, the you name it, and or even circle behind USDC, US benchmark coin. That's the first deposit token that's been issued by Vast Bank, which is owned by Greg Kidd. Greg Kidd's, I'd say he's a man that's behind Coinbase, Ripple, Uphold, even my former employer Link2. The gentleman is a very smart man that recognizes great opportunities. And but with US benchmark coin, I was watching a video of an executive at US Bank. So US Bank at Money 2020, which was a fintech facing conference in Las Vegas last month or early this month, excuse me. Excuse me. You know, he was talking about the last mile of payments. Where I'm getting at is, yes, XRP, Ripple, these companies that have disrupted cross-border remittances and disrupted the SWIFT network, they are still struggling to process and facilitate that last mile of value. And what I mean by that is, you know, I can't pay yet my mortgage with stablecoins or crypto yet, and so I would have to liquidate my funds from Uphold and then convert them back into fiat, and then in order to, or convert my funds on fiat into fiat from digital assets on Uphold, and then before I can, you know, pay for my mortgage, whatever, or whichever bill I needed to. And so where I'm getting at is that last mile is still being serviced by fiat. But with US benchmark coin, which is a deposit token, a bank issued stable coin, that could be that very value mechanism, transfer mechanism for that value. And so I'm curious to see, you know, while some banks don't have those resources yet, others have built them, and I'm just very excited to see who's building them, where they're being built, why, and who's now beginning to leverage these resources. And that's just the private markets and how things work, and how they become adopted by the publics. And it's just great to see how things evolve. And once you do, it's not like a rinse and repeat, because if it was, then it'd be so easy and everybody would be doing it. But that's part of the game, is staying on your toes, listening to trusted sources like yourself, and participating and engaging in some of these ecosystems and communities of practice, because that's where you get the alpha or the great information and insights, so you can make data-driven choices. And that's where I'm trying to live and stay.
Nice. You touched so many things. Like we could.
I know, that's why we can keep talking, Fran, but I gotta go. I got a family vacation to enjoy. So
just quick one question, and we end up with the interview, so you can go and enjoy your day. So you touched about utility versus speculation, how the market is right now. Apart from Ripple and XRP, what other ecosystems, what would you say are the top 3 digital assets you are focused on, or that you like, or that it just caught your eye?
Yeah, well, I mean, some of those which I've briefly touched on, from, you know, obviously XRP. I'll be flying out to Miami on December 3rd. I'll take a red eye land in Miami in the morning, go to the Stellar Miami house and learn as much as I can about what Stellar's working on. So XLM, I'm curious to hear about what their what integrations and market participants are utilizing XLM. Actually, I mean, even US Bank had issued an announcement within the past week or so about how they're leveraging. And I believe are they issuing a stable coin or using Stellar? And so anyways, a lot of growth is happening within this ecosystem. And so for every chain, or not every chain, because there's now thousands and thousands of chains these days, but I believe there's going to be a consolidation. And what I mean by that, there's going to be, utility is going to, and adoption is going to be consolidated or housed or be served by specific networks and blue chip networks. And what I believe is, or what we're seeing is, the Ripple's buying other companies. What they made 5 acquisitions this year. Was it 4 or 5 now? And so, and like others are doing it. And so I think Flare's a great opportunity. XLM's a great opportunity. XDC is an interesting play. Obviously Cardano, Chainlink, and of course Ethereum, Bitcoin as well. I think there's too much adoption and liquidity for it to be driven down to zero. But hey, people think that it could lose at least some of its power should Tether lose some of its market reign, which we're starting to see that. I mean, actually, there was I believe an announcement today on one of the I think was it Fox, and it was my mom sent me a text message actually on her TV. It was an announcement that Tether was losing some market dominance, and because of that, Circle went up by 10% in price today. But it's also down. It went down from $160 to $60 as of late. And so, but now it's back up to like $80. And I'm curious to see what happens again for these market participants like these stablecoin issuers. Are they becoming banks themselves? And are the banks becoming stablecoin issuers? So again, are we meeting in the middle here? Is that is that going to drive competition? Is that going to set the stage for, the fintechs to be competing at the helm against some of these largest financial institutions and banks like the B of A's, the Citis, the Chase, the JP Morgan Chase, and then are we going to start to see consolidation amongst them? It's interesting to see what happened. I mean, with the crash of Silicon Valley Bank, in 2023? I mean, who knows what we can see next? But it's just very interesting to just see how we move into a world where things become more liquid and instantly settled and global. So I'm excited to be leveraging these new systems and tapping into these global networks right alongside you, Fran. So thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
No worries. Thank you again for your time. So you heard it directly from Ray Fuentes. Apart from XRP, XLM, XDC, Flare, not financial advice, but just an opinion.
Yes.
So
yeah, and you could call me Raimundo Rosendo Fuentes Bernal.
Exactly. So Ray, I don't want to take more of your time. You just we unpacked so many things, and I think there's a lot of things that people can pick up of what you said, that we could do like 3 hours more just to unwind many things that you just said there that is much more deep than what people realize. To say some things that you just said, if you're in the ecosystem, you know that you spend time digging deep to understand everything that is happening, specifically about the consolidation. Many thanks to taking the time today to reach to the Spanish audience, explain your point of view. It was a pleasure, and I'm sure I'm gonna have you a second time. We're gonna do more of these, but yeah, thank you.
Well, let's do it, Fran, because I have a lot of people knocking on my door that are hungry to see content, even on NASDAQ floor. And so there's people that are hungry for this information that you're sharing, that I'm sharing, because they're not seeing that on mainstream media. And so to get a text message from my mom to hear that they're talking about Tether on mainstream media and Circles now getting a bump up, like, it's just wild to see these things. So it would be great to collaborate on a more frequent basis and to speak Spanish, man. If there's an opportunity to aprender y practicar más español, man, yo necesito. And, but anyways, hey, tú tienes un día muy fantástica. Gracias para la invitación aquí.
So here you have it. Thank you. Thank you, Ray, for taking your time to speaking here. Next time we can do it in Spanish, and I think people enjoy it. So many
I'll do my
thanks.
best.
Again, we'll speak soon.
Hey, thank you so much, Fran. Have a great rest of your day and weekend.
Bien, hasta aquí la entrevista con Ray Fuentes. Espero que la hayas disfrutado tanto como yo. Y aprovecho para recordarte que si quieres comprar XRP a través de un exchange que cumple con la regulación, te dejo un link en la descripción del vídeo para que si utilizas específicamente ese link vas a recibir un bono de bienvenida de 10 XRP. Solamente te piden dos cosas: que verifiques tu cuenta y que operes con activos por valor de 100 euros en un plazo de 7 días para recibir tu bono de bienvenida de 10 XRP. Aprovecho para recordarte también que comprar activos digitales no solamente consiste en hacerlo a través de un exchange, sino que también consiste en que lo custodies tú mismo. También te dejo un link en la descripción del vídeo para que puedas comprar una billetera fría, en este caso Tangem, para poder custodiar y retirar después de realizar la compra en Bitbabo tus activos digitales a una billetera fría. Esto es todo por ahora y nos vemos en el siguiente vídeo. Un saludo.